I remember the sound of her keyboard that afternoon, the soft tapping of keys blending into the hum of the ceiling fan. She said she worked better from home, said she liked being close to me while she wrote. I like that too. It made the house feel alive, like her presence filled every space. Then her phone rang. She laughed, grabbed her keys, said she'd be right back. The door shut behind her, and the house went still again. I wasn't planning to look at her laptop. I didn't even move for a while. But curiosity has a way of growing teeth. The screen was still glowing when I walked over. A Word document open, the cursor blinking like a pulse. The title read, Our Future 5-Year Plan. I thought it was something sweet. Maybe a list of goals. Maybe something about marriage. Maybe a surprise. She liked to plan. But when I started reading, the warmth drained out of the room. It wasn't a list of dreams. It was a timeline, a strategy, a roadmap of manipulation. It started innocently enough. Move in permanently by year 1. But then it shifted. Accidental pregnancy by year 2 makes commitment harder to reverse. Establish emotional dependency. Monitor bank account activity. Mention trust often. Then came year 3. File for divorce after building public image of support in patience. Secure alimony. My throat went dry. I kept reading, though every word felt heavier than the last. There were notes in parentheses, little reminders. Research state alimony laws. Don't use male lawyers. Practice crying, no yelling. Keeps optics good. She'd planned everything, every emotion, every scene, every lie. I stared at the screen for a long time. My reflection hovered over her words, distorted by the light. It felt like I was looking at two people at once, the man I thought I was, and the fool she was planning around. I didn't yell. I didn't slam the laptop shut. I didn't call her. I just sat there in silence, reading her map of our life as if it belonged to someone else. When the shock passed, there was only clarity, a cold, quiet kind of clarity. I clicked forward, typed in my lawyer's email address, attached the document, wrote nothing in the body, just the subject line, evidence. I hit send. Then I sat there listening to the fan, to my heartbeat, to the silence that suddenly felt like an answer. She came home a few hours later, smiling, asking what I wanted for dinner. I smiled back, told her anything was fine. She didn't notice the way my eyes stayed still, or maybe she did and decided not to ask. She'd always been good at ignoring what didn't fit her story. That night, I watched her fall asleep beside me, her breathing steady, peaceful, the same rhythm I used to find comfort in. I stared at the ceiling, wondering how long she'd been writing that plan, how many nights she'd lay next to me, imagining the day she'd leave. When she was asleep, I got up, opened her laptop again, checked that the email had sent. It had. I deleted the message from the sent folder, closed the lid, and went back to bed. She shifted in her sleep, murmured something about love, and I almost laughed. The next morning, I got a reply from my lawyer. Just one line. Understood. Do not confront. Document everything. So I did. I spent the next few weeks pretending. I played the role she thought she'd already won. I smiled when she talked about the future. I let her make plans, take photos, tell me how lucky she was. Every laugh we shared became evidence. Every touch, every lie, another note in the file I was building. But it does something to you, pretending like that. It changes the air you breathe. You start hearing the truth in every word they say. You start realizing that the person you love isn't there anymore. Maybe they never were. There were moments I almost broke, like the night she looked at me across the table and said, "You're the only man who's ever made me feel safe." I remember how calm my voice sounded when I said, "Yeah, maybe that's the problem." She smiled, not understanding. I waited. I didn't know what exactly I was waiting for, but I felt it coming, the crack in the mask. It came one evening when she came home early. I was cutting vegetables when she stormed into the kitchen, her face pale, eyes wide. "Why did my laptop email my draft to a lawyer?" she asked. I didn't look up right away. "What do you mean?" She hesitated, her voice shaking. "There was a message in my sent folder. It's gone now, but I saw the log. You sent it, didn't you?" I put the knife down. "Yes." Her lips parted like she couldn't breathe. Did you read it? Every word. She started talking fast. It wasn't real. It was an idea for a story. You know I write things like that. No, I said. You don't write about me. You don't write about my lawyer. You don't research divorce law for fiction. Her face crumpled, and for a moment I thought she'd tell the truth. But she didn't. She tried to cry, like it would wash the guilt away. But I'd read her script. I knew even that was part of the plan. I didn't mean to. You did, I said. The silence that followed wasn't just silence. It was the end of something. I could see it in her eyes. That flicker of realization that the game was over. She tried to reach for me. I stepped back. She whispered my name, soft, desperate, but I didn't move, because that was the moment I finally understood the kind of person she really was. Not someone who loved me, someone who studied me, someone who thought she could shape my heart into a step on her ladder. When she finally stopped talking, I said one thing. Everything you wrote is evidence now. Her eyes filled with tears, but it wasn't remorse. It was fear. The kind of fear that comes when you realize your own words have turned against you. She backed away slowly. Her voice cracked. What are you going to do? Nothing, I said. It's already done. That night she slept in the bedroom. I stayed in the guest room. The walls between us felt like a final line neither of us could cross again. She cried softly for a long time, but I didn't go to her. I'd spent months loving someone who was only pretending. I wasn't going to pretend anymore. I stared out the window for hours, watching the rain slide down the glass. Each drop felt like another truth washing away the lies she'd written into our life. I should have felt angry. Instead, I felt still, empty, but clean. By morning, I knew she'd start realizing what that email meant. She'd realize she wasn't the one pulling the strings anymore. She'd realize that the story she wrote, her perfect little 5-year plan, had turned into a confession she couldn't rewrite. I made coffee, sat by the window, and waited for the sun to rise. The world outside looked new. Not better, just new. I didn't check on her. I didn't need to. She'd written her ending herself. She was gone before I woke up. The side of the bed where she slept was cold, the blanket tossed aside like she'd run out of breath in the middle of the night. The house was quiet again. Too quiet. The kind of quiet that doesn't come from peace, but from absence. Her shoes were missing. So was the small leather bag she always said was for emergencies. Maybe this was her version of one. I made coffee, sat at the table, and stared at the spot where her laptop used to sit. The table still had faint marks from where her elbows rested. It's strange how something so ordinary can start to feel like evidence. My phone buzzed. A message from my lawyer. Short, formal, efficient. Restraining order filed. Document submitted. She's been notified. I stared at the words until they stopped meaning anything. Somewhere she was reading the same thing, realizing that the story she wrote to trap me had folded in on itself. I wondered if she cried or if she just sat there in shock, staring at her own words turned into legal language. Later that day, I saw her again. She came back, unannounced. Her car pulled up fast, tires crunching on the driveway. When I looked through the blinds, I saw her standing there, drenched in rain, her hair plastered to her face. She looked different, smaller, maybe younger. The confidence she carried like armor was gone. She knocked first, then she shouted my name, then she begged. Please, I just need to talk. I didn't move. I stayed where I was, watching her through the thin space between the blinds. Her eyes kept darting around, looking for movement inside, for some sign that I was still willing to play the part she'd written for me. I didn't open the door. After a while, a car pulled up behind hers. 2 officers stepped out. They spoke to her quietly. One of them gestured toward my house, probably telling her the restraining order was active. She tried to talk, waving her hands, but they stayed calm, patient. Eventually, she looked at the door one last time and whispered something I couldn't hear. Then she got in her car and left. The rain kept falling long after she was gone. I stood there for a while feeling nothing. Not relief, not victory, just the hollow ache of reality settling in. That night I walked through the house like it belonged to someone else. The couch, the photos, the scent of her perfume still floating faintly in the air. I kept thinking about how she used to laugh here, how she'd stretch across the bed, how she'd say things like, "I feel safe here." She was right. She'd made herself safe. Until she wasn't. Days passed, then weeks. My lawyer handled everything. I kept my distance. People asked where she was. I said she moved out. They nodded and didn't ask more. Sometimes in the quiet moments I thought about that document. Not what it said, but what it meant. How easily trust can be used like a key, opening every locked place inside you until someone decides to change the locks from the inside. One afternoon while cleaning, I found a small notebook wedged between the couch cushions. It was hers. Brown leather cover, worn edges, her handwriting inside. Lists, sketches, pieces of thoughts. On one page in small, neat letters she'd written, "If he ever finds out, make him feel guilty for not trusting me." I closed the notebook. I didn't get angry. I didn't throw it. I walked to the kitchen, turned on the stove, and set it on fire. I watched the edges curl inward until every word was gone. Then I rinsed the ashes down the sink and watched the water carry them away. For the first time in a long time, I smiled. Months went by. I learned to live with the silence. I worked, I ate, I slept. I learned to stop looking at my phone expecting her name. But sometimes, late at night, I still caught myself listening for her footsteps. Habit is stubborn. One evening, a message came from an unknown number. "I never meant to hurt you." I was scared. "Can we talk?" I deleted it without replying. There was nothing left to say. Some stories don't end with forgiveness. They just stop being told. After that, it got easier. The air in the house felt lighter. The quiet didn't hurt anymore. It just existed. I started going out again, seeing friends, watching movies, laughing. It felt strange at first, using my own voice freely again. But I liked it. People talk about closure like it's something you get from someone else. But that's not true. Closure comes when you stop needing to explain yourself to a ghost. I never saw her again. Maybe she moved. Maybe she's still somewhere trying to rewrite her story. Maybe she tells people she was the one betrayed. I don't care. The truth doesn't need to defend itself. Sometimes when the house is quiet and the light falls just right across the table, I think about that file. The title she typed in bold at the top, "Our Future 5-Year Plan." She was right about one thing. She did change my future, just not the way she planned. Now every morning I open my blinds. I make coffee. I breathe. The world feels simple again. I don't look for meaning in every gesture or fear that love is a transaction waiting to expire. I just live. If I think about her at all, it's not with anger. It's with a kind of distant understanding. She thought she was clever. She thought control was love. She thought she could script the ending. But life doesn't follow anyone's script. The only real ending was silence, the kind that doesn't come from loss, but from clarity. The day she found out her plan was now evidence, she finally met the version of me she'd never bothered to imagine. The one who didn't argue, didn't shout, didn't break. The one who watched, waited, and walked away. I don't hate her. I don't wish her harm. I just hope somewhere down the line, she looks back and realizes that she wrote the ending herself. Every sentence, every scheme, every word. As for me, I don't need revenge. I don't need to prove anything. I just needed truth, and I got it. I still keep the email in my archive, not as a reminder of her, but of myself, of the day I chose silence over chaos, action over anger. People think justice is loud, but real justice is quiet. It doesn't announce itself. It just waits until the right words find their way into the wrong hands. And when they do, there's nothing left to say. I close my eyes sometimes and picture that moment again. The cursor blinking at the end of her plan, waiting for the next line that never came. That's where her story ended and mine began.